Muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support you guys extend and send my way. From the heart, I appreciate every one of you. And before getting into the story on him, do please like, share, and subscribe. Gracias. Well, today I want to touch on a certain topic that till date I don't really understand it. But sitting down and analyzing certain things, it's a common thing that occurs, right? And it's gonna basically touch on the how there's hypocrite, right? That camaradas sometimes get taken out for losing a huila or whatever, right? That have no real meaning just cause an individual's in a bad state of mind. And now there's those that, to a sense, have a leverage on a carnal. And we go around thinking that, oh, it's that carnal. But, certain things prove you wrong. And again, it's just one of them things, right? But, anyways, today I want to talk about the Pili Stump from Sangra and Avato, right? That the first time I ran across him was in the hole in Ironwood. They call him Mad Dog or Pepe from Sangra. And the first time he came out there, his paperwork per se wasn't bad. He was busted for murder and he was a getaway driver, right? Nevertheless, his name was on the lista. He was on the hard candy list, you know. So after reading his paperwork and everything, you have to send everything up. Who's there? Who arrived? In case there's a personal issue with the Billy, right? And it will come down the pipe to go ahead and handle it, right? Nevertheless, like I said, his paperwork threw red flags from the start, right? Because it had to do with that Manson murder that happened with Wet or Shy, Pelon, and them in the days. You know, and me personally, I didn't have that much knowledge into it. I knew about a character and them. Once they hit death row, they all locked it up, right? I didn't really know or have heard of this cat, right? And nevertheless, I sent it up, and at first when I came back down, it was, you know, he's in good. He's good. No hay nada con él. He's a personal friend of Stump, so he's hands off. Just allow him to program. When at first it's like you're like, okay, he wasn't directly involved in it, but regardless, they should have all had something coming, at least in the sense because of the kids, right? That fool decided to take out. At the end of the day, he lifted his hand to support this individual, and you lift your hands to do something. Whatever comes out of it, you have to buck up and deal with the consequences, right? At least that's what I used to be considered things as, right? Nevertheless, he was hands off. Now, Homeboy was a weird individual, to say the least, right? He's a paranoid cat. He was always questioning things because he felt some type of angle against him. And it's understandable, like I said, the death of that cat, and after that, every Pili, the Pili locked it up, and everyone that was with him had locked it up, right? The only one that escaped from it was Wero Shy. For what reason? We go back to favoritism, right? But anyways, about 2 months after he was there, there was a lot of issues, at least pending in Ironwood, right, to deal with, and also from Hammett, he addressed me and he told me like, "Hey, Chino, sending him a appeal up to Terco. He wants to address something with you in regards to Mad Dog, right?" So we do what we can, right, through visiting and stuff, and basically Terco. You gotta remember this is 2000, right? And Terco was in a board with Stumps faction. We just leave it at that, right? Stump was a politiker. Ever since I was with Raul, I learned to not even offer, that you're in this position for this cat, because he was one of them dirty vatos. We're talking about he's always in the mix of something negative, either moving on another carnal, stepping on territories, on toes, things like that. Things you want to avoid as a sureño, right? Anyways, so I shot that on appeal to basically get an answer what was required of me, right? And it came back down like not in them words, but basically, F stump and what he has going, right? Again, I didn't get a good explanation on why he was hands off. I didn't understand it, but again, I was nobody to even ask, right? And but Terco was going through his things up there in the Bay when it came to politicking, right? And needless to say, I didn't know at this time that they had already been averted on Stomp, right? To get taken out from the organization. And basically, the appeal that got sent back was telling me to go ahead and do this fool. That he had no past, nobody involved with that case had any type of past, right? So, I got a Selly. Selly was a lifer, good homie from Whittier. And Homo said Simon and he whacked him. He whacked him and removed him. After this happened, I guess it slowed down things for Storms, right? And a lot of threats, a lot of, well, it's it's real comical how we pride ourselves on something, and when things hit the fan, they start acting like something that we frown upon, right? Which is woofing from far away, talking out their neck, knowing we can't answer. As a sureño, we can't reply, right? So basically, we just have to hear them out. And if Stomp wouldn't have locked it up, of course, you go through prison to prison with the knowledge that if Stomp had a crew there, he's gonna have his crew move on you. There's no buts or ifs, alright? You're in the shit list when it came to this individual. It's just the way things were working at the moment. Anyways, from there I went to Tehachapi, and then I went to Corcoran. One thing I gotta say about Mad Dog, that fool, you gotta give props because he wasn't willing to lock it up. he wasn't gonna go peseta, right? He was willing to handle business. You know, when we were in Corcoran Shoe in 4 block, right? Homeboy had came down from Folsom, New Folsom, and he had gotten whacked. This was right at the moment where Stomp had checked in, right? For his dirty politicking, you could say, right? Anyways, but again, he had been moved on right after Stomp had locked it up, right? I believe 2001, if I'm not mistaken, or I don't know, but it was around there. I got to Corcoran in 2003. So, anyways, he got there, and I already knew what time it was, right? Or at least I thought I knew. You see, by then I had you could say, did my homework. I know I did it wrong, right? I had homeboy moved on, and then I started doing my klecha, my schooling, right? But then I came to learn, that I guess homeboy, that was his new Folsom stabbing was his fourth, right? He hadn't gotten whacked already, and I guess he started paying the M, or should I say his homeboy, right? Stumps. And since they were around the same age or family member, I don't know exactly, right? They knew each other. So that favoritism came into effect, right? And throughout Stomps being good, every time they moved on his boy, he would have the vato that called the shot for a different pili and the vato that did the work actually get put on the lista. He would finesse it. They have a way of finessing things, and they also have a way of ordering a camarada to do something and not backing that camarada up when things hit the fan, right? It's a common thing. Nevertheless, he got to 4 block and he showed up with a homie. He was a youngster that had a date to his house, right? He was a little knucklehead, but regardless, he got there, and what I was trying to do is trying to have myself or Shadow from 18th Street move in with him, right? Because we had live, and we also knew Mad Dog. Well, the priors he had picked up from New Folsom was that he was willing to get stabbed, but he was gonna stab back. And again, we didn't want to put the little homie on the spot, right? Because again, he had a date and everything. So, anyways, we started pedaling to get the move done, right? And at the same time, I send them a appeal to B-Yard to Artie, letting him know he's there, and basically the history with myself and the orders that came down and the whys and the surroundings, and started pedaling the move, right? Wasn't expecting anything different from Artie, and Stomp being gone, I definitely wasn't expecting nothing, right? But I was dead wrong. You see, by the time it came back down, basically he told me, no, it's cool, stand down, you know, wait, someone's gonna get at you. Now, just to put a little history I haven't touched on, I was a big poison to my city, to my neighborhood. You know, I uh, I brought these individuals to the neighborhood because again, it's where my mind was at, right? It's what we're supposed to do. And at the time, I had brought Silent George, and he was running the neighborhood. And Up until this point, I had nothing negative to say about Silent George. He's a quiet one, a good Billy. He seemed to care about camaradas. But again, I go back to that mentality, right? That tecato, greedy, money hungry mentality, right? And again, because I was, in some sense, in touch with Silent George, right? Due to things happening in town, he got at me and he told me, hey, Chino, homeboy, I took over his ducky. Basically, whatever he had going with Stumps, I took over it. He's taking care of me, so he's untouchable. And since I had a little bit more flexibility there again with the Pili, I asked him, right? But there's kids involved. He said the main ones are gone. Just leave it alone. So again, me personally, when it comes to kids, women, or anything like that, right? It shouldn't even be a question, right? It should be done on the spot. Again, you might have not been the fool that did the action, but you gotta man up to what you offer to help with, right? Whatever comes out of it, you can't go into something and expecting honey at all times, right? Things are gonna go bad. Anyways, once this happened, basically I stood down. I was nobody to even question an order coming down, right? And especially when I got given the respect where Artie didn't get involved in it. He allowed Silent George to direct it, and he paid me his respects by getting at me directly. So we left it alone. But you see, like I mentioned, Homer was a paranoid individual. To be sincere, whatever he worked out in New Folsom before he took off with Silent George, I don't know when it happened. All I know it was like a little ladder, right? Stomp locked it up, started telling, he started debriefing, and everybody got hit underneath them, right? And of course, money talk. Silent George being Stomp's uncle, I'm pretty sure they had more personal conversations, right? Is why he took Mad Dog Saki. Anyways, homeboy got paranoid, because in his mind he probably thought he was going to get hit again. By this time he had been hit 3 times, right? But he wasn't expected just things to be left alone, right? He actually addressed it one time. We went out to yard. It was still concrete yards, right? And he addressed it, and I told him, look, I don't get into personal business. You know what you got going with Silent, right? And it's none of my business. Todo está bien. Just do your program. But this was maybe a month beforehand, right? Homeboy got paranoid. Alarm hit one day. Next thing you know, the little homie, right? He ended up getting pulled out, carried out, because Mad Duck thought he was being rocked to sleep to get taken out good this time. Not just hit in an open area. Because his paranoid mind, we're going out to conquer your, why not get whacked out there? Why wait and wait and wait, right? Because being under stump had not helped him before, right? Still got hit because it was dirty politicking at this moment, right? Everybody that knows it was that inner fighting and crews moving on crews, Peelies, behind the scenes moving on different Peelies. And anyways, things were changing, right? and he couldn't foresee that because he was just doing his payment. He wasn't involved nothing directly. He was just his family, I'll say, not him. And he ended up moving on L, right, on the little homie. And I wanted to send him with a basically with a wheeler, right, stating wherever he hit, he was free game, right? No buts or if, hard candy, take him down, right? And I tried to do so. I took the proper steps through Artie, through Silent, and the little homie ended up going home. By the time I got an answer, and basically it's what I got told. Look, Chino, he did it as paranoid. I'll see fit to deal with wherever he lands, right? But as far as that, no, you to leave it alone. The homie got hit, and at the moment is when the push was coming through, right? Where you couldn't hit a camarada in the face unless he was basura, right? To put that mark on them. And Pepe, he got the homie, right? We just leave it at that. And it's what I was pushing for, right? Homeboy marked him as trash when he's not, right? And then he paroled, freshly getting stabbed. Brings issues to a camarada. Regardless of how things happen, there's going to be proper steps, right? There's going to be questions. Nevertheless, once again, I was told to step down. Basically, the money Mad Dog's family was giving Silent George was worth more than the program and this fool moving on a good homie, marking the homie good with no apparent reason. Basically, up to whatever we follow at that moment, we were to put aside and to leave alone, to step down and keep programming, keep doing your thing. I don't want to talk about this no more. And at that moment, just to leave it alone. When in time, it would eventually make his way up to high desert and Terco would have his way up there with him, right? But that's not the point of the message. The point of the message on this is, you know, I ask to those that come on here and talk a good one, right? Because I've seen lately a lot of that. As a camarada, you think this is right? You think money should be worth more than another camarada? I understand there's levels to camaradas, right? But that shouldn't even be a factor. The factor is we're there to represent our people. Our people are untouchable. You have an individual paying feria for killing kids, or the outcome of his actions took out kids. Everyone with him either got killed or got moved on and went PC. But because his family had ways of making money, they were passing him around and washing up homies behind somebody that in reality is basura. So you can't tell me if it's right. You know, selective politicking, right? It happens all the time. You see, what do you think happened with them camaradas? For example, the homie from Whittier I sent to move on him in Ironwood. He got hit and removed by Stumps. Just happened to land on one of them yards that was Silent George, and you know, he basically got pencil whipped and got put on um, PC. I understand, once they're on that yard, there ain't really nothing we can say. But to go as far as to say everyone's equal as basura, nah. One thing I want to make clear, there's been a lot of questions about people debriefing. Don't listen to them cats. Debriefing is the worst form besides taking the stand inside. I don't do this trauma stuff, but if I would speak about the aftermath of debriefing, but anyways, it's not the point. The point of the thing is, we're quick to give our lives to the cause, to the movement, but the movement ain't willing to do it for you. You see, the movement right now is the Bealies. That in their head, they're above the program. They're in a pedestal where they are the program. You can't question them, but they can ruin you. Basically, the program sits now at hoping an individual, one individual, wakes up on the right side of the bed, and if not, if it's going to be you with the name in his head. You never did nothing wrong besides follow rules and regulations to the dot. Regardless, that's not important no more. The program is Tecatos chasing their money, their dope, or else. So if you're not there wiggling, doing your doing what it's a must, because if you're already there, complete your mission at all costs. Don't listen to the sidewinders talk about, oh, it's because you don't know. I debrief. I didn't tell. That's BS. You know, when you talk about individuals on that side, yeah, you could question why they're over there, right? So a lot of authors that just get tired and go out that way. You know, it's understandable. The two things you cannot question when they're on that side is them being part of the MA. Two is if you went through that debriefing program. But regardless, it's why basically be smart. Don't give up your life if you're out there. You've done your thing for your neighborhood. It's time to do your thing for them loved ones, right? For yourself. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Buenas noches.